that we want them to live, is their lives. So we need to equip them with the tools to be able to live those lives.
Especially the environment is not built for autistic people. I mean, especially schools, hospitals.
Yep. You know. You've hit the nail on the head around that. So what we do with Autism New Zealand is we take a social model to autism rather than a medical model. So the societal model is how do we change the environment around the person to create the best chance of that child or adult being successful. So, you know, most of our education programs are targeted at the family, the whānau, the professionals, the teachers, whoever, the employers, who can create an environment that's going to make it better for that autistic person, which means then they have a better life. So that's the model we take, rather than the medical model, where the medical model is all based on trying to change the autistic person. Now, we're not trying to change the person. We acknowledge that someone needs medical support, absolutely. But we're not trying to change the person, we're trying to change the environment to make it a better environment for our community. And I think if we do that and we get that right, it's a better environment for everybody. It really is.
It's funding the organization.
So it's mixed. So government, we get government funding for our, as I said, our education programs. So but that doesn't fund, that comes at a cost because we have to deliver programs, right? So generally that funding covers the cost of delivering those programs because we need to employ people to deliver the programs. So it doesn't really cover the cost of admin and things like that. So we get that, we get some donations, which we really appreciate. So people donate money to us, which is always appreciated, and anyone that ever wants to, just go to the website and have a look. And obviously charitable trust funding and lotteries, etc., etc. So essentially that's the split, three-way split really. It's government contracts, donors and charitable trust funding. And that comes in many different sort of ways of how we apply for that. Is really, ultimately, so our outreach program is not funded at all through government, so that's really critical that we get funding to cover those people, because those branches are really important, because they fill a massive gap out there in their community. So I think it should be funded through Ministry of Health personally, and we've tried, but we haven't had any success yet, so ultimately we'll continue to try, but I think that's sort of where we'd like to see, hopefully, the new Ministry for Disability Issues or Health New Zealand or whatever might consider funding that moving forward. Because for a relatively small amount of money, they can have it's a significant difference in the community.
There's a change in our health system, like we have Health New Zealand,
yes,
and then now we have Maori Health as well. Are we impacted by that, or are we?
So so it's the Ministry for Disability Issues is probably the one. That's probably the big shift for our community. So the disability support services that's currently sit with Ministry of Health are going to move over to the Ministry for Disabled People. So that's the big shift there. My argument is, you know, we don't even know the amount of people who are diagnosed
we don't have
as autistic in New Zealand. So
we
don't have stats.
Data. Yeah.
No, it's ridiculous. We don't have stats. How do you know how much resource to put in the system if you don't know how many people are diagnosed?
Especially for funding.
Yep. So but based on international figures, there's no reason to suggest it's any different here. There's probably about 90,000 autistic, 93,000 autistic people in New Zealand.
But I suspect there should be more, because there are people who are not diagnosed.
Absolutely.
They don't even know that they are.
Absolutely. So there's so based on those figures, there's 93,000 that are probably diagnosed, and there'll be more than that.
Yeah.
But out of the 93,000 that are diagnosed, only 8,000 are getting disability support services. So only a really small percentage of our community are actually impacted by these changes anyway. And those that get support are really the high complex needs. So everything I've been talking about before, if we get the environment and the system right for our community early, and these stats are pretty consistent around the world, 60% of the people will go on to need no support, 30% will need less, and 10% will still need the same. So there's always going to be a percentage of the autistic community that will need significant support, but if we get that support earlier, then there'll be less of need for the others. So there's research around the world suggests about 30% of autistic people are high complex or medium need, and about 70% are sort of on the lower end of medium and then lower need. So, but those 70% still need help sometimes, and that's the challenge, right? That's the really hard part, is to get people to recognise the fact that, you know, they still need help and they don't get it. So, and we actually deal a lot with those people that don't get government funding as well. So a lot of people come to us that don't, because we don't charge for our outreach services.